Warrior Pikemen are one of the most sought out matches in Age of Empires Mobile, and the reason is because they do a ton of counter-attack damage to multiple people that are swarming them down. On top of this, they destroy that good old Lubu that's creeping around all of the current season 3 meta. So why not get ahead of it and become a pikeman main? And that's what today's ultimate warrior pikeman guide is all about. They teach you the free to play, the spender formations from season 1 to season 2, and when season 3 comes out with the good old Mansa Musa. So you know exactly what you need to do, and including signet ring choices in this video. So smash a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to play Age of Empires Mobile, check the link down in the description down below, press it, hit it, help your boy out, and we can join together on a nice fun journey. So with that, let's dive into today's video. So if you're a free-to-play player and you're looking to play that warrior pikeman formation, we've got the 3 formations that you're going to start off with, then get into the mid game and late game in this section, and then we'll dive into all of the skills that you're going to need to understand when we go into things. So first things first, the very first formation is going to be Richard I, Joan of Arc, and Darius the Great. The reason why we're running this match is because at the beginning of the game, unfortunately for warrior pikemen, you don't have too many options. Richard I is key for free-to-play players because he is your only hero that deals damage when it comes into things. So you really need this hero for warrior pikemen to do something in the game, especially as a free-to-play player. So with that, we're going to go into Joan of Arc and Darius, 2 easy to obtain heroes, Battlefield Survivor or the Tavern for Joan of Arc, and then Darius the Great through the Exploration or again the Tavern. Darius is easily the worst hero out of the bunch here, so you're going to be replacing him immediately with the next wheel commander, which leads into Formation 2 is Boudica, and Boudica is an amazing hero that you're going to get access to once you've completed at least your Imperial City capture. That means basically season 1 is kind of over for your empire, and you're going to be transitioning into where it's the mightiest empire, where empire versus empire events start to occur, and this is where the legendary advent wheels for season 2 commanders start to come, such as Lubu, Octavian, and as we've just gone through, the good old Boudica here. So these are going to be your main, actually, bread and butter for quite a while, because even with a good Joan of Arc at 3-star or above, a Richard at 3-star or above, and Boudica only needed to be 1-star, this match is going to slap and have some good sustain. The reason it has some good sustain is because of the ring choices we've got on screen throughout all of its forms, and we are going to discuss different signet rings at the end of the video. So just wait for the end section where we discuss blue rings, epic rings, and legendary rings, all that apply to warrior pikemen that you could be using in a variety of combinations. So coming back into it, Ring of the Boar, I would consider the best damage dealing one. It's increasing your passive skill damage dealt, right? So a really good one for Richard I, and it fits the pikeman theme. Boudica running the Ring of the Falcon. This is an amazing, again, ring for either recovering troops or reducing the damage you take. It's going to flip between one or the other throughout the fight, which is fine because Joan of Arc, depending on what ring you want to use, we've got the Ring of the Lily, which is recovering more troops, but you can also put down here the Ring of the Clover to reduce the amount of damage you take. As you can imagine, with the blue ring and the Ring of the Falcon, it's almost like a double combo synergy. So it's super, super friendly, and it gives you that sustain that you need in open field. So don't forget about that combo. But from here, you're going to be going to the end game formation, and this is when you end into season 3, and this is not occurred yet for global players as of this guide, but it's going to be coming soon, as any new player might be coming to Age of Empires Mobile and might be watching this video. It's going to be Richard I, Boudica, and Mansa Musa. And this whole lineup, each one of these commanders are going to be obtained, like I said at the beginning of this section, through the legendary advent wheel, guys. So you need to be spinning those legendary advent wheels to actually do something with Warrior Pikemen, especially for free-to-play players. But the thing is, with Richard I, Boudica, and Mansa Musa, as I've warned earlier, this is a really good, powerful free-to-play player match. Accessibility-wise might be a little bit hard because of the wheels that you're going to need to spin, but if you miss Richard I, guys, and you don't unlock Richard I at least to that 1 star or just have him on your account so you can work on him to get him where you need him, this match won't work. We don't have any other really good damage dealers for the free-to-play players in the game right now. So if you unlock Boudica and Mansa Musa, you're going to be in this waiting list hoping for a future pikeman in the warrior lineup that you could be using as a free-to-play player since you missed Richard. Some people are asking, are Richards going to be returning? I don't know since the recording of this video. We could get them coming back, but I can't say that in this guide. So we just got to play it as if they aren't coming back in the game. So with that, we've gone over the formations though of what you're going to be needing. So at the beginning of the game, Richard, Joan, and Darius. You're going to remove Darius and put in Boudica here, which is going to improve it massively. And then you'll replace your Joan of Arc with Mansa Musa. And that is the free-to-play progression for your formation. And what we're going to do now, just to put icing on the cake, is just explain those skills that you're going to need and minimum star requirements for that match. So for the free-to-play players, let's talk about all the skills that you need to care about if you're going to be using any of these heroes. Firstly, Darius the Great. If you do choose to use this hero, and I personally recommend you don't use him and try to replace him as fast as possible, the only thing you actually need to do to this hero is replace the one epic skill here, Efficient Harvest. It isn't really going to do too much for you because it's obviously a gathering skill, and the one skill you could replace this with is actually Roar of Victory. This is actually going to help your Richard generate more rage, which is really powerful to actually allow him to hit that surmount skill for his major commander rage skill, which is really, really cool. A nice little bit of synergy, making Darius do something in there while his main skill increases all the attributes for the target, as well as you can see, doing a 30% defense ignore. So it's not too bad, but it could be better. Let's just say that with other skills that we really, really want for our commanders. But in season 1, it is what you're going to be running. Soon as you can though, you're going to be replacing them, like I said, with Boudica. And this, what you can see right now, is the season 2 skills that you're going to be running on your commanders. This is going to be Richard with Boudica and Joan of Arc. And if you're wondering the cost for this, I will recommend a 3-star Richard minimal going into 5 stars. That's what you're going to be working towards as a free-to-play Warrior Pikemen player, if that's your primary choice for your formation. Going into Boudica, I would honestly say a 1-star is enough, but 3-star is icing on the cake. Going into the Joan of Arc, 3-star or above is mandatory. It just feels like anything below 3 stars isn't good enough in season 1, but you can achieve this through the Battlefield Survivor. On top of this, as you've noticed, the skills, you're only going to need to unlock 1 skill for the Joan of Arc, the Boudica, and then 2 skills for Richard I. These 2 skills are mandatory on Richard, and the reason why is because Forceful Retaliation and Whirlwind Sweep are both a might engine, meaning basically both of them increase your might stats and work together. So this one, as you can see, increases your hero might by a percentage on a turn-based combat. And if you're wondering what this looks like at level 40 max ranks, it's a 19.5% increase of your might damage, which is really cool because when you look at Forceful Retaliation now and then go into its max level 40 ranks, this deals some nice counterattack damage to the target, but on top of this, it increases the hero's might attribute by 30. So what this means is, for example, if we have our good old Richard here and we look at my attributes, I have 451, meaning if my forceful retaliation triggers at max, I'm going to get that extra 30, meaning I'm at 481, and then that bonus 19.5% starts to be applied. So I actually get more for my money. And that's what I want. I want to get as many might as possible when running your march. Now, when it comes into his main skill and his commander skill, what does Richard do? He does some nice AoE damage from this skill, and when you're 3 stars specifically, and this is why I want you to be 3 stars with Richard, you're going to actually increase the amount of damage this skill does with the amount of marks that you have. So if you read this, increase the damage based on the current number of marks of the light heart stacks. Each stack increases the skill damage by 12.5% up to 100%. It also reduces those enemy troops' movement speed by 20% for 3 seconds. So basically every 250 rage, you're going to be hitting 3 guys with a massive nuke, and it can be even stronger depending on your main signature skill. This is what's getting triggered in that turn-based combat and not on that open field, which is that raid skill which you just talked about. The signature skill says each time your troop is hit by a normal attack, you grant 1 mark. You can get 2 marks per second, and this is because double attack exists. So any of those Mulans, technically any Hannibal, hitting you and getting that double attack proc, you're gaining 2 stacks a turn. Really powerful, because at 16 stacks, you're going to deal 1 instance of might damage to the enemy troop, and once this removes all of the stacks, you will also, as you can see, increase the Richard's might by a specific amount. This is at 1.2 on my next level, but obviously scales up, I believe, all the way to 1.5, and this will give your troops more might when you lose troops. It's as simple as that. The lower you get, the stronger you are. It's a weird pikeman thing, but that's what you're all about. So you can see how Richard works, right? Increases might, make this hit harder, and make this harder. So he's your damage dealer. Now, Boudica. Boudica is a little bit easier to understand, because all we're going to be using Boudica for, even at 1 star, is to support and buff up Richard. So here with our main skill, Swift Reprisal, you can see this is actually just going to increase the might of your hero with the highest might by more, right? So what you need to make sure when you're running this march, even which we're going to address in the spender section, you need to make sure everyone's got the right attributes, aka your Richard has the highest might, meaning Boudica will give him even more, right? So you can see how we're funneling everything into one guy and making sure they do as much damage. With this, the only skill you really need to unlock for this is either Forceful Retaliation or Kingsblade. It depends on which one you want to run on your account, because Kingsblade will increase all of the heroes' damage for your Richard, your Boudica, and your Joan of Arc in this march, while Forceful Retaliation, as you can see, increases this hero's might while dealing some nice counterattack damage. The reason why I'm not saying you can run one or the other, or even Tenacity instead of your good old Vigilance you've got here, right? If you want to run that, the reason is because of Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc also has access to Kingblade. Sometimes some people don't want to run doubles Kingblade. I do. I kind of like it. It does its job, which I like to see. But if you don't want to run double Kingsblade and you only want to run one, well, you can put the Kingsblade on your Joan. Boudica can have the other skill, or if Joan wants another skill, I would honestly recommend Righteous Judgment or the Fearless Retribution. This is going to deal counterattack damage while recovering troops, while Righteous Judgment actually gives you a cool charging state, which reduces the enemy's hero's might and strategy bonus. So it's actually giving you a nice tempo swing in the fight. So you can choose one or the other skills, guys, but you only need one legendary skill unlock on Joan and on Boudica if you're free to play. Want to make that clear. Now, Mansa Musa, we don't have access to him, but on screen should pop up his skill set from another video, and you can check out that video on the channel. But here you're gonna get a really powerful skill which reduces the amount of damage you take, but in the more skills category. The only skill you need to care about is his elephant skill, which also, as you can see, increases the damage dealt of your commander while doing some nice tanking survivability for your march. So really easy to understand there, skills for free-to-play players. I hope that helped you out. Obviously, replace Darius. This is going to be your main lineup, and then you're going to go into Mansa Musa, right? It's as simple as that. So let's move on to the spenders and the pay-to-win formations that you're going to be looking into. So if you are a spender, there is one thing that you need to remember. You have access to Leonidas, and this is going to cause me to have a little bit of a problem, because if you are investing, you have two different paths. Did you unlock Leonidas or didn't you? So we're going to actually address both of them in this quick rundown section. So the first thing is, if you didn't unlock your Leonidas, your very first form is going to be simple. Richard I, Joan of Arc, and Barbarossa, and you're actually going to transition straight away into, as you can imagine, Richard I, Boudica, and Barbarossa. This is going to be an amazing Season 1 going into Season 2 transition, because straight away you're replacing Darius the Great with Barbarossa, and we can already imagine how infinitely better that is, because Barbarossa actually has some really good synergy with your good old Richard I. But coming back into that, you unlock Boudica. Boudica's now going to boost the might of your Richard while being a great supportive hero. So this is going to be your kind of Season 1 going into Season 2. Remember, you're going to need to spin the wheel for Richard. Barbarossa is going to be obtained through the heroic expedition or daily chests in the game. Then moving on is Season 3, and it depends on what you want to do, and a lot of players do have a variety of combinations, which we're going to discuss basically in this section, because it is a long one for spenders. But you do have Richard I, Boudica, and Mansa Musa. This is a really powerful combo here that you can be running, because Mansa Musa also increases the damage dealt of your commander through one of his skills that he has access to. So this is a really good one, on top of obviously reducing damage taken. It's a really good supportive commander that you can be replacing that Barbarossa for if you choose to. This isn't mandatory. Some people still run to this day a Richard I, Boudica, and good old Barbarossa for a really mid-game spend march. Now, it's a little bit different, as you can imagine, with Leonidas, because in Leonidas, this does allow you to have, even in Season 1, a Richard I, Barbarossa, Leonidas march that you can replace the Barbarossa really quickly with Boudica. And this is the go-to march for a lot of the spenders. Richard I, Boudica, and Leo. Depending on the star rating, it does determine which position that Richard and Leo wants to be primary. I really don't want to start a riot in the comment section, because we have done testing videos on this and you can check it out on your own. But the best thing to remember as a spender, if your Leonidas is higher star rating than your Richard, normally put him in the primary slot. If Richard is generally the 5-star commander, and if he is 5 stars over all of them, always put him primary. That's kind of the one to go to. If Richard's not 5-star, he can go anywhere. If he is 5-star, he must go in the primary slot. That's what we've learned from our tests, and that's for the Richard, Boudica, and Leonidas. And from here, you can do a bunch of stuff. Again, if you don't want to go for Boudica, you can run Richard I, Mansa Musa, and Leonidas. But this does, again, give you options as a more of a spender to have another Warrior Pikemen match almost in the lineup. So it's a really exciting time, especially for the kind of spender side of things, if you're wanting to go down that Warrior Pikemen lineup, because you can see how much more flexibility and customizability you have with your supports that you can be putting with the damage marchers in there. So with that, let's go over and explain now the spender side of skills and include that with some gens and move on to the good old Signet Rings breakdown. So welcome back to the skill section now, but this is obviously your spenders. If you're a spender, pay to win, and you've enjoyed the formation breakdown, I hope I've helped you out understanding you have a variety of things that you can be doing, right? But with your skills, it's kind of a little bit more linear in some regards. Again, Richard I, exactly the same as we've spoken about before. And if you're going to be running a Richard I with Boudica and a Leonidas together, you really need to pay attention to your attributes, because whoever is the highest star rating hero, so if in my case, I need to make sure Richard is always got the most might compared to my Leo, because he's just better invested into. I need to make sure he has basically lower might, right? This is because with the might trigger of Boudica's Swift Reprisal, we don't want this to be landing on the wrong hero. So if you're a spender, you're running Leonidas and Richard, make sure if you are, especially end game, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, make sure Richard has the highest might, and then Boudica will target him and Leonidas will just do his own thing and honestly do wonders. But you'll notice, obviously, as a spender, you will be double unlocking all the skills here, including obviously on Leonidas. And at the beginning, you have Frederick Barbarossa, and you're probably wondering what skills to unlock on his hero. I personally didn't go down this because I went down the Rani route, but he does have some amazing skills that you can be using. The reason why this is such a good skill is he reduces your troops' damage taken by a flat amount, but similar to Richard, as soon as you hit below 50%, you're going to start recovering units, so you actually get a really good sustain on that 50% trigger. So you're dealing more damage, you're reducing more damage, you're now healing damage. So Barbarossa with Richard is a fantastic combo for that. And when you go into his more skills, depending on what you want to run, you have Peaceful Haven, even just for one unlock that you could be putting on this hero. And as you're recovering even more troops, you're triggering again more reduction from your troop damage taken, which is really good. You can also go down King's Blade if you choose to with this march, and his Righteous Judgment. So he has all the different best support skills that you could be putting on him, depending on what you need in the situation. That is the best way to explain Barbarossa's skills for you. You want to put on him what you might be missing in the main march, right? Leonidas is a lot more simpler. In my build, I run Whirlwind Sweep with Fearless Retribution, because the thing is, he is going to get a ton of might anyway through this one skill, and his main signature skill that does do a ton of damage, I'm going to be honest, and it increases, as you can see, your troops' damage against tribes. It's a nice little PvE one, it is what it is, but the fact that when you below 50%, it increases your damage dealt as well, like, it's just nuts. This hero does an absurd amount of damage and increases in your own damage. And the thing is, with Whirlwind Sweep, adding to that, the only thing you really want to do, in my opinion, in my build, is just put Fearless Retribution. This gives you a nice bit of recovery that's missing in the march. So if you put Leonidas with Fearless Retribution and you actually have Barbarossa and Richard, you'll notice that march is actually surprisingly tanky and it's dishing out a ton of damage. However, you might want to replace Barbarossa, and if that's the case, you're going to be replacing him with Boudica. Boudica is going to be your go-to girl. The only thing that we're going to be doing is running King's Blade and Forceful Retaliation in this combination, making sure you hit him like a absolute truck. And then Mansa Musa, again, you're most likely going to be running Tenacity with the Elephant just to give yourself the maximum amount of recovery, and then the good old, obviously, damage boost to your commander. And that is all of the skills, honestly, that you need to worry about when it comes to the spender side of things, because obviously for the free-to-play section, we spoke about a lot more in depth each of those skills that you need to care about, aka the Boudica synergy with Richard, as well as obviously Joan of Arc skill, and we've gone through these newer heroes down here anyway, right? So that is all of the formation skills understood for the spender side of things that I've missed out on in the free-to-play section. Now let's talk about the Signet Rings and wrap up this video coming up to the ending of it. So what different type of Signet Rings are you going to need for your Warrior Pikemen? Well, this is what that section's all about. We have showcased some nice examples throughout the formations of 3 different rings that you could be running, which is 2 epics and a blue for free-to-plays, and obviously 1 epic and 2 legendaries, depending on your spending level for the higher pay-to-win players. However, there is more rings, and that's what this section is all about for you Ultimate Warrior Pikemen players. I'm going to go through actually each of the rings so you know exactly what you can be using them for and if it's worth unlocking. So first things first, blue rings. There's 2 that you can actually be using, Ring of the Clover and Ring of the Lily. Again, for free-to-play players, if you have either one of these, you can equip this to your pikemen. They're just really good, super cheap, and easy to level up rings that are going to give you sustain and survivability on the open field compared to players that just don't have any rings at all. And honestly, you'll be surprised when you start fighting some players. With this, you've got epic rings, and with the epic rings, I do want to point out to 2 rings that you can be using. Straight away, Ring of the Lion. This is just 1 ring you might have on your account, depending if you are using warriors or in general on archers, infantry, pikemen, cavalry. Doesn't matter, because this ring covers every type of match in the game, increases just your flat stats. So if you've got this, you can equip it, but it's not the best in slot ring by any means. On top of that, just to add another ring choice is Ring of the Deer. You can put this on one of your supportive marchers. So if you want to put a bit of a kind of tempo swing into the gameplay, you're going to be able to do so. But let's talk about the main rings I actually think you should be going for, right? So the first one was Ring of the Boar. This is increasing your actual passive skill damage. Super important, and always equip this to your main commander. So if you're running Richard I as your primary commander, this is going to be his ring. If you're running Leonidas as your primary commander, this is going to be his ring. Make sure you've got this on him no matter what in the early game, especially because it's super easy to get as an epic ring for your account. With this, you're going to have Ring of the Badger. This is the 1 ring that you can choose to have as a supportive ring. This is 1 of 2, and I honestly prefer the second ring choice over the Ring of the Badger. Ring of the Badger is okay. It honestly counters a lot of the secondary strike skill damage taken, as you can see, and normal attacks, meaning it beats the Mulans, and it kind of tries to beat the Hannibals that are trying to hit you with all that secondary strike skill damage. However, Ring of the Falcon. Ring of the Falcon is just too good. It is just an amazing ring that you can be using as an epic ring that gives you reduction on troop damage and also recovery of troops. Yes, it only picks 1 of the 2, but the fact that you get both effects in the match can actually change the tide of the battle. You could need that recovery when you're really low, just to squeeze out that extra bit of damage when you're below 50%. While you're above 50%, you obviously want that reduction to get you there slower. So it's just such a good ring. And as a free-to-play player, just to put it out there now, just think of it. You could be running the Ring of the Falcon on one of your supports, aka the Boudica. You could be running the Ring of the Boar then on your Richard I. And depending on whatever you unlocked, Ring of the Clover or Ring of the Lily, and that's on your 3rd commander, and that is a super budget friendly build for anyone to run down. And if you want to go down the road to upgrade your march, the one thing no matter what, and I have to include it in this, is the Messenger of Destruction. This is the 1 ring if you're going to go for a legendary damage based ring for your pikemen. This is the one. Why? It gives you the most obscene damage increase in the game, which is a 75% damage increase on your passive skills. Yes, this is going to take a very long time to grind, but this would be your legendary ring that you go for if you choose to, because by doing this, you increase the damage you're dealing while maintaining actually all the survivability that we've talked about with the Ring of the Lily, the Ring of the Clover, as well as the Ring of the Falcon and the Ring of the Badger. So depending on which route you want to go down on the survivability, you've got all of those rings to choose from as honestly a free-to-play player. Now, as a spender, everything applies the exact same that I've just said. However, as a spender, you do have access to 2 extra rings that you can go for if you choose to. Lofty Mountain would be one of them that I highly recommend. Lofty Mountain just allows you to do exactly what Pikemen want to do, which is for the first 18 seconds of battle, reduce the amount of damage you take from might damage, which is allowing you to get to that 50% threshold slower, so you get the maximum amount of value of the damage you deal. But as soon as you hopefully flip, right, after 18 seconds of combat and you start to deal damage because you're below 50% or below 60%, depending on what march you're running, you're going to increase your troops' damage bonus. And that is just amazing for a ring. You can equip this again to your support. So depending on a spender, you could be running something like Richard with Boudica and Leonidas. Put Lofty Mountain on Leonidas and you're gonna be absolutely cooking with this ring choice. With this, you also have the good old Tranquil Water. This is just allowing you to, for 18 seconds, reduce your troop damage taken. Again, another 1.6k ring, and technically the, stepsister, brother of Lofty Mountain. If you put both Tranquil Water and Lofty Mountain on the march together, it's a super tanky march that you're going to be going with, because then, obviously, as we've discussed, Messenger of Destruction is going to be the nasty one, right? It's going to be the thing that deals all of the damage for that march. And that honestly is all you need to really know when it comes to the ring choices for ultimate, warrior pikemen. And if there's any other ring choices, maybe in the comment section down below, leave your suggestions on what you like to run. But with that, let's move on to the gems and main attributes you want to look out for when going for gear, and let's wrap up today's video. So let's talk about the good old gemmies that you're going to need for your pikeman match, because a lot of people are going to be asking this in the comment section, since I've been honestly forgetting these in my older guide. So I do apologize, but I've answered all of those questions, hopefully. So in pikeman, what do you need gem-wise? Simply, hero capacity is one of the best things. It's going to just allow you to have more troops, which actually allows you to, again, recover and have a better troop count once you hit that 50 and 60% damage thresholds that you technically need to get all of your super benefits in the long-term fight. With this though, obviously the main attributes you care about is going to be might, as well as hero passive skill damage up. All of the commanders that you've noticed today, all of their skills, which will be shown on screen, does revolve around passive skill damage. So you're not caring about anything else, no secondary strike, no sort type of turn-based skill. It's all passive. With that, obviously, we've talked about increasing your might. So if you need to, in certain scenarios, for example, you need more might on your Leonidas because maybe he is a better commander for your primary slot, you can add might to your gem slots. This is an easy way to fix that. Apart from that, the only other stat I really honestly care about would be your troop health. Whenever you can get troop health, add that to your gems. It's honestly going to win 10 times out of 10 a lot of players that are going to be ignoring that really important stat when it comes to Age of Empires Mobile PvP combat. And with that, that's the video, guys. We've concluded and gone over all of the free-to-play formation progression from Season 1, 2, and then obviously the kind of Season 3 commanders that we've got coming soon to the game. We've gone through the spender side of things, we've gone down the Signet Rings, and I've just explained the kind of main stats and gems that you do want to be looking out for when you're building these marches. And hopefully you have learned now everything that you need to excel with the ultimate warrior pikeman in Age of Empires Mobile. And if you've enjoyed the video, you've learned something, smash like, comment, and subscribe, and check out in the description box the link to today's sponsor, and I want to thank them for sponsoring this video. So until the next one, stay safe guys, stay sneaky, peace out.